Everyone always asks me what the harshest rule in my family was. So here it goes. Every night, my father made us vote on who deserved to sleep in a decent bed, and who would go to the little zinc shed at the back of the property. If anyone refused to rank their own mother and siblings from best to worst, they got the shed immediately. He would sit at the head of the table, with that ridiculous little notebook in his hand, reading the names like he was the host of some bizarre show. Ranking time, he would say with a crooked smile, while we stared at our plates with no amusement whatsoever. He never entered the voting because he was the official referee. So he slept every single day in the front bedroom with the huge bed. While we killed ourselves over the remaining spots. First place won the double bed in the back room with a fluffy pillow, thick blanket, and a door that actually closed. Second place got the sofa on the covered porch. Third got a thin mattress in the damp basement. Fourth place got only an old rug in the garage. And last place went to the freezing zinc shed. When I was about 12 years old, I had already spent several nights there. Everyone had been there except him. One night when I was 13, my siblings threw me into last place, because I had lost a backpack and made everyone late for school. That morning, the metal floor was freezing, even with the blanket that still smelled like oil. The rain hit the roof like a machine gun, and I shivered until my teeth hurt. The voting ended up destroying us, exactly as he planned. My older brother, Ko, was always scheming to make everyone else look worse. He would hide school supplies, break things, and blame others. Start fights before dinner to make someone look bad. Being nice never helped, because there always needed to be someone to blame to escape. Last place, good grades and completed homework meant nothing when the alternative was spending the night in the cold. Every dinner became a silent calculation of who you could throw to the lions that night. Which sibling you loved least at that moment, whose pain would cut you less. My older sister, Sophia, learned to cry at exactly the right time. She would break down in tears right in the middle of dinner, telling about the previous night in the shed. She would get sympathy votes right away. My youngest brother, Tethys. Tio made deals and promises, trading future votes for good placement. Now, my mother tried to stay neutral, but that only made everyone put her at the bottom for not taking sides. So she spent more nights in the shed than any of us. After years of this, we barely spoke except to negotiate votes. Family dinner became my father reading the rankings, while we shot daggers at each other across the table, calculating betrayals and planning revenge. I kept a little notebook documenting voting patterns, looking for alliances to use or weaknesses to exploit. Trust between us died long ago, and affection went with it. Then came the day Sophia got sick. During a week of heavy rain. High fever so bad she could not even sit at the table for dinner. My father's rule was law. No vote meant the shed. Sure enough, she ended up there, shivering and too weak to participate. Rules are rules, he said, and marked her for the shed. By morning, she was worse, coughing hard, still too sick to vote. The next night, automatic shed again. I tried to help, but he caught me and called it disrupting the system. He gave me extra punishment. Nights in the shed. I spent those nights listening to my sister suffering a few meters away, while he made notes in his little notebook about maintaining order. My mother finally confronted him and took Sophia to the health clinic. But something in us had already broken forever. Todio became capable of anything to avoid the shed. He recorded audio for blackmail, spread lies about our mother to make our father yell at her, guaranteeing sympathy votes for the others. The doctors asked about some bruises, but my mother made up a story about it being rough housing in the yard. They did not buy it, but could not prove anything because Sophia stopped talking. After she got sick, my father punished our mother with several consecutive days in the shed. She came back thinner and quieter. One night, he announced an update to the system. The shed was no longer the worst, because he had prepared a more isolated space behind it. Just dirt walls and a tarp on top for whoever came in last. From now on, shed became second to last. TDIO immediately volunteered to help prepare it, in exchange for a week without risk of last place. And I understood. We were completely lost. My brother was literally helping make things worse, just so he could escape. My mother gave up completely. She started putting herself in last place every night, with an empty little smile. Sophia, still too weak to vote properly, was guaranteed the shed. The new space was almost ready. And that night, someone was going to sleep there. I stare at the backyard, my stomach turning, as my father walks out the back door with his little notebook in hand. That crooked smile spreading when he sees we are watching. He taps the notebook against his palm and says, "Today is special because someone will be the first one down there." Sophia is sprawled at the kitchen table inside, barely able to hold her head up. I know if she does not vote again, she will end up down there. I make a promise to myself right then that I will take her place, no matter what it costs. Even if he invents more punishment or new rules to screw me over worse. The sun is disappearing, the cold already biting frost starting to whiten the grass around us. He calls us inside for dinner and we go in silently, sit in our usual places, while he stands at the head with his notebook ready, smiling that horrible smile that says he is loving every second. We stare at our plates, to avoid making eye contact with him or each other. My mother speaks first in that lifeless voice, putting herself in last place like she always does, now with a defeated little smile. Tito leans close and whispers, "He will put me in second to last if I support him for the sofa." His eyes are cold, calculating, like it is a business deal, instead of deciding where the family sleeps tonight. I want to argue, but I need an ally to protect Sophia. So I nod slightly and watch my father noting it in his little notebook. Pa starts his usual show, animated voice, reminding everyone he washed dishes and swept the porch today, conveniently forgetting other things that happened. Sophia tries to cry, but she is too weak. Tears run down her pale face, without the drama that usually brings pity. She trembles from fever or cold, or both. You can see her trying hard to participate, but she cannot. The whole ritual makes me sick, but I force myself to continue. I think through the rankings in my head, and calculate who I can sacrifice today. Refusing to vote is worse, and I cannot help Sophia if I am down there myself. My father reads each name slowly, savoring the moment while we each state our order one by one. When he finishes counting, he looks almost disappointed for a second, then announces that mother gets the new space and Sophia gets the shed. His tone makes it clear he wanted Sophia for the grand premiere, but the numbers came out different. I feel a small relief, until I look at my mother's face and watch it go completely blank, all expression disappearing like someone turned off a light. She does not complain, does not argue, does not even seem sad. She just stands up slowly and walks toward the back door, like a shadow crossing the house. I want to shout that this is not normal, that families do not do this to each other, that we should refuse together, and make him deal with his own idiotic rules. But the words stick in my throat and do not come out. Tito is already heading to the porch sofa to secure his spot. Sophia drags her feet to the shed, coughing into her hand. That night, I lie down on the thin mattress in the basement, and cannot stop remembering those difficult weeks, when Sophia was so sick. I can still hear the sound of her suffering, while I shivered in my own punishment for trying to help. He called it disrupting the system, and threw extra nights on my account. He stood there with his little notebook, making notes about maintaining order, while his daughter needed help just a few meters away. The memory makes my hands shake with rage, and I have to press them against the cement floor to stop. My mother is in the new space now, lying out there with just a tarp between her and the night sky. And I am down here, safe in comparison. The guilt weighs on my chest. But I keep telling myself that being in the basement still means I can help. I can plan. I can think about how to end all this. I cannot sleep knowing mother is out there. So I get up quietly and go to the small basement window. I look out at the backyard. Almost midnight, and the cold is biting. Thick frost forming on the grass around. The tarp sags a little in the middle, where she must be lying underneath. You can see her shape moving occasionally, trying to find a better position. The light in my father's room is still on. Upstairs, I see his shadow walking behind the curtain. Probably reviewing the sacred notebook, and taking notes about today's rankings. Already devising new ways to screw us over tomorrow. He must be all excited about the success of the system, thinking about improvements or new rules. I grab the cell phone. I hid in the mattress, wrapped in an old sock, so he will not find it if he searches down here. I look at the photos I took weeks ago of some marks Sophia had. I realize I need to do something bigger than just keeping evidence. Something that will actually stop this before it gets worse. Even if it means. The weight of the hidden phone in my hand felt like a live coal. It was more than just a device, it was the only piece of the outside world that still functioned according to the truth. Inside this house, truth was a currency my father devalued every time he opened his mouth. The next morning, the frost didn't melt. It clung to the zinc shed and the black tarp over the pit like a shroud. When my mother crawled out of that hole, she didn't look like a person anymore. She looked like a piece of the earth that had been forced to walk. Her hair was matted with damp soil, and her eyes were fixed on a point somewhere beyond the fence. Breakfast, my father called from the kitchen window, his voice bright and chirpy. He was wearing a clean apron. He looked like the hero of a sitcom, while his family crawled out of the dirt. At the table, the atmosphere had shifted. Ko was twitchy. He had spent the night in the garage, and the smell of oil and old rugs had seeped into his skin. Tio sat on the edge of his chair, his eyes darting between father's notebook and the door. Last night was a success, father announced, cracking an egg into a pan. The sizzle sounded like a scream. Order was maintained. But I noticed some lack of enthusiasm during the voting. We need a catalyst. A reason to truly strive for the best. He set a plate of burnt toast in the center of the table. From now on, he said, tapping his pen against his chin, the winner of the first place spot doesn't just get the big bed. They get the veto power. They can choose to swap the positions of any two other people after the vote is finalized. I saw the spark in Ko's eyes. It was a terrifying sight, the look of a man who had just been handed a weapon. This was father's masterpiece. He wasn't just making us vote against each other, he was making us the architects of each other's misery. Sophia isn't eating, I said, my voice cracking the silence. My sister was slumped over, her forehead resting on the cool wood of the table. Her breathing was a wet, ragged sound. Then she's forfeit, father said without looking up. If she can't contribute to the family's health, she shouldn't expect the family to provide hers. She stays in the shed until her attitude improves. She's dying, Dad, I whispered. The room went cold. Ko froze with a piece of toast halfway to his mouth. Even Tio looked pale. Father slowly lowered the pan. He walked over to me, leaning down until I could smell the peppermint he chewed to keep his breath fresh. There is no dying in this house, Elias. There is only succeeding and failing. Which one are you doing right now? I looked at the notebook. I wanted to grab it and tear it to shreds, but I knew the rules. If the notebook was destroyed, everyone went to the pit. All of us. I'm succeeding, I lied, the words tasting like ash. The following week was a descent into madness. The veto power turned the house into a war zone. Ko won at first, and he used it to move mother from the sofa to the pit, simply because she hadn't thanked him for letting her have a piece of his fruit. Tio spent his days recording every cough Sophia made, every sigh mother uttered, presenting them at dinner like a prosecutor. I stayed in the basement, watching. I was the third place king. I played the middle, never good enough for the bed, never bad enough for the pit. I was the ghost in the machine. But my hidden phone was filling up. I had recordings of the voting sessions. I had a video of father laughing while mother shivered under the tarp. I had Sophia's labored breathing. The breaking point came on a Tuesday. The rain had returned, a deluge that turned the backyard into a swamp. The pit, the isolated space, was filling with water. At dinner, father looked bored. The rankings are becoming stagnant. You're all playing it too safe. So, tonight, we're playing for the grand bed. My bed. We all looked up. This was the one thing that had been untouchable. If someone can provide a reason, a truly compelling reason, why another member of this family is utterly worthless to the system, they take my room. And he paused, savoring the drama, will take the pit. He was testing us. He wanted to see if we were brave enough to try and topple him. But it was a trap. He knew we were too broken to turn on him. He expected us to tear each other apart for the chance at his throne. Ko stood up immediately. Tio stole bread from the pantry. He's a thief. He weakens the collective. Tio screamed, Ko broke the garage window and blamed the wind. He's a liar. They began to brawl, right there over the burnt rice. My mother just stared at her reflection in a spoon. Enough. I roared. The table went silent. Even father looked surprised. I have the reason, I said, my heart hammering against my ribs so hard I thought it would break. But I don't want the room. I want to show everyone the order as it really is. I pulled the cell phone out of my pocket. Father's smile didn't falter, but his eyes narrowed. Electronics are a violation of. I don't care, I said. I pressed play on a recording from 3 nights ago. It wasn't a recording of us. It was a recording I'd captured by hiding the phone in the hallway outside Father's room. Rankings look good, Father's voice came through the speaker, distorted but unmistakable. He was talking to himself. If I keep Sophia in the shed for 3 more days, she'll be weak enough that her mother will finally break. Once the wife breaks, I can sell the property and move us to the city. I'll leave the weak ones behind. They're just overhead now. The notebook is almost full. The experiment is over. The silence that followed was different from the usual dinner silence. This was the silence of a vacuum. Ko looked at Father. Tio looked at the notebook. Mother finally looked up from her spoon. You're selling the house? Mother asked, her voice a low, dangerous rasp. You're leaving them? Father chuckled, though his hand was gripping the notebook so tight the pages were crinkling. It's a metaphor, Martha. A test of loyalty. Elias is trying to disrupt the. It's not a metaphor, I said, scrolling to a photo of his desk. I'd snuck in while he was in the shower. It was a picture of a real estate contract. Signed. The system wasn't about teaching us discipline. It wasn't about order. It was a liquidation process. He was thinning the herd before he ran. Ko was the first to move. He wasn't the best student or the best brother, but he was the strongest. He didn't go for Father. He went for the notebook. He snatched it off the table. Father lunged for him, but Tio, little, calculating Tio, tripped him. Father hit the floor with a heavy thud, the sound of a god falling to earth. Give it back. Father screamed, his face turning a shade of purple I'd never seen. That is the order. Without that, you are animals. Ko didn't tear the notebook. He didn't burn it. He walked over to Mother and handed it to her. Mother looked at the book. She looked at the names, the tallies, the years of misery recorded in precise, elegant handwriting. She looked at Father, who was scrambling to his feet, trying to regain his dignity. The vote, Mother said, her voice suddenly clear and cold. We haven't finished the vote for tonight. Martha, don't be ridiculous, Father spat. I am the referee. Not anymore, she said. She picked up the pen. Ko, your vote? Ko looked at Father with a hatred so pure it seemed to vibrate. Father. Last place. The pit. Tio? The pit, Tio whispered. Elias? I looked at the window. The rain was hammering down. The pit would be a foot deep in mud by now. The pit. Mother nodded. She wrote it down. She showed the page to Father. The numbers are unanimous. Rules are rules. You can't do this. Father yelled. He tried to grab her, but Ko and I stepped in front of her. We were taller than him now. We were the products of the cold and the zinc, hardened while he sat in his big bed. Go, Mother said, pointing to the back door. Or I call the police and show them Elias's phone. I think the order might look a lot like felony child abuse to a judge. We watched through the kitchen window. Father stood in the rain, clutching a single blanket. He looked small. Without the notebook in his hand and the table between us, he was just a middle-aged man with a crooked smile that had finally frozen into a mask of terror. He climbed into the pit. He tried to pull the tarp over himself, but the wind kept ripping it away. He looked up at the house, his house, and saw us all standing there, shoulder to shoulder. Sophia was in the big bed that night. We moved her there together. We wrapped her in the thickest blankets and fed her warm soup. She was still sick, but the color was starting to return to her lips. We didn't sleep in our ranked spots. We dragged mattresses into the living room and slept in a circle, like a tribe of survivors. The next morning, the pit was empty. Father had run away into the night, leaving his car, his sacred bedroom, and his half-filled notebook behind. He didn't have the stomach for the shed. He didn't have the strength for the dirt. He was a parasite who couldn't survive without a host to bleed. We didn't go after him. We didn't call the police. We let the silence of the house become our new order. I found the notebook on the kitchen table a few days later. Mother had left it there. I picked it up, intending to throw it in the fireplace. But I stopped. I turned to the very last page. Mother had written one final entry. First place, the children. Second place, the future. Last place, the memory of him. I didn't burn it. I buried it in the backyard, right in the center of the pit. I filled the hole with fresh dirt and planted a tree over it. People still ask me what the harshest rule in my family was. I tell them the rule was that we had to choose who to love and who to sacrifice every single night. But the most important rule, the one that saved us, was the one my father forgot to write down. The referee only stays in power as long as the players agree to the game. We stopped playing. And in the end, that was the only vote that mattered.